Eastbrook had its share of beauties, they said, but none of them had ever been stupid enough to love Adrian with their eyes wide open. I had followed him through 5 continents, 23 time zones, and one too many midnight phone calls that ended with gunpowder on my tongue. I had stitched his shoulder in the back of a cargo plane, stitched my own thigh a week later, and stitched daydreams of white lace between the nights I couldn't sleep. Everyone in our rarefied circle, arms dealers, heiresses, diplomats who thought they were invisible, knew the rumor. Skylar, he was the one bullet Adrian would never have to take, because I had already taken it for him. So when the company jet touched down at Eastbrook, I actually let myself imagine the rest of the fairy tale. I would trade my shoulder holster for silk, my blood-spattered field notes for embossed wedding invitations. I even bought a ridiculously expensive planner, dove gray leather that still smelled like the boutique. I annotated sample menus, circled honeymoon islands, and Googled how to keep Ecuadorian roses alive long enough for a bridal arch. All the while, Adrian's voice purred in my ear, lazy, amused, proprietary, patience, little guard dog. 18th of June, you'll wear the blue diamond where it belongs. He meant the ring he had slid onto my finger in a field hospital that reeked of iodine and despair, an oval blue diamond the exact shade of gunmetal right before dawn. A stone so big it kept catching on the Kevlar when I crouched beside him on rooftops. That was supposed to count as a proposal. I had believed it. Stupidly. Deliriously. Because when you've had your ribs cracked by a sniper's ricochet and the only thing you taste for 3 days is morphine, any promise feels like scripture. Then Vivian came home. The night it happened, Eastbrook smelled of salt and banked thunder. A summer storm prowled just beyond the harbor, lighting the yacht masts like white-hot filaments. I had spent the afternoon tasting cake samples with a celebrity pastry chef who kept calling me cross to be until the words sounded real. I was still wearing the fitted dove gray blazer I'd chosen for the occasion, something soft for once, nothing like tactical nylon. My hair was loose. My guard was loose. I walked into the VIP lounge of the Meridian Club expecting to surprise Adrian with the final flavor selection, champagne raspberry, the color of bruised lips after a long kiss. Instead, the room surprised me. The paneled doors slid apart on a hush of chilled air scented with truffled popcorn and the citrus the servers missed over VIP guests. I spotted him instantly, impossible not to. Adrian occupied the alcove like a king who had decided velvet settees were his by birthright. His charcoal shirt lay open at the throat, the cufflinks I'd bought him, onyx shields shaped like tiny bulletproof vests, flashed when he lifted his whiskey. Curled against him, legs tucked under sequined mini dress, hair a waterfall of champagne curls, was Vivian. The first. The girl who had existed in every anecdote he told while we cleaned our weapons. Viv hated saffron. Viv once surfed in Norway in February. Viv's laugh sounds like glass breaking in a cathedral, terrible and beautiful. I had catalogued those fragments like intel, never expecting her to materialize, yet there she was, real enough to touch the rim of his glass with hers. She tilted her head, diamonds at her earlobes pulsing with the beat of hidden speakers. Tell me again, North, are you happy we're finally doing this? Happy we're announcing tomorrow? North. A nickname from their boarding school years, when he'd been the cold star she orbited. He tapped her nose with one lazy finger. Delirious, 10 years late, maybe, but we're here. A hush vacuum packed the moment. I felt it pop inside my ears the way pressure equalizes after a gunshot. 10 years. I had 5. 5 carved out of deserts, avalanches, black site corridors. Apparently. That came with an expiration date. Vivian's lashes fluttered. And your little bodyguard? The one who took a bullet? She didn't look at me, couldn't have known I was behind the mirrored bar, but the words pinned me to the polished floor like steel rebar. She expects a ring, doesn't she? Adrian's shrug was elegant, lethal. She's guard staff. Staff bleeds so I don't have to. If I married every employee who shed blood, our wedding guest list would look like the casualty roll at Normandy. Quiet laughter rippled through the room. Someone clinked ice in approval. I counted heartbeats, 4, before I realized the sound was my own pulse cannonading against bone. I should have walked away, but training is perverse. When they tell you to hold position, you hold. So I stood there collecting fragments of conversation the way I used to collect shell casings for ballistics. Vivian traced idle circles on his collarbone. Perfect. Then I want her to plan it. Plan what? Our ceremony, silly. She's detail-oriented, she'll make certain the roses match my eyes. The room erupted into suggestive whistles. Adrian's answer was a soft, indulgent, whatever you want, princess. Whatever you want. He had said that to me once, syllables rough with awe, The night he slid the blue diamond past my second knuckle while monitors screamed my vitals. Now the same sentence smelled of someone else's perfume, jasmine, crushed peonies, entitlement. My hand found the edge of the doorframe. The wood was cool, hand-planed, imported probably, something no amount of salary could ever teach me to afford. I pressed until the grain imprinted my palm. Pain was good. Pain kept me from vaulting across the sofa and demonstrating exactly how many ways I knew to break a human sternum with 2 fingers. I turned. Behind me, velvet drapes whispered like gossip. The corridor outside was lit low, gold LEDs bathing everything in the kind of amber that makes bruises look romantic. I almost made it to the elevator when a server, barely 19, freckles and terror, stumbled into me, tray clattering. The VIP lounge door was still ajar. Head swiveled. And there he was, Adrian's gaze lifting, remote, then sharpening when it registered me. Skylar. One syllable, but it cracked across the room like a sling stone. Years ago, he'd uttered my name the same way right before he hauled me behind an armored SUV and bandaged a graze with his own torn shirt. Tonight it sounded like a reprimand. I stepped inside because protocol demanded it, because my contract hadn't been terminated yet, and bodyguards do not flee, they advance. Adrian's eyes flicked to my outfit, something softer than the tactical black he was used to, and for a fraction of a second I saw confusion, maybe even regret, before the steel shutters dropped again. Who asked you to come? Low, lethal, the tone he reserved for traitors and paparazzi. I forced air past the vice in my throat. I was reviewing final cake samples for the. I stopped myself, cursing my idiocy. For your engagement, I finished, voice flat. A pause, brittle enough to fracture. Then Vivian unfolded herself from the sofa, hips swaying like a runway model on a catwalk made of other people's self-esteem. Skylar, right? The legend. She clapped silently, mocking. I've heard so much. You're basically family. She looked me up and down, gaze snagging on the faint scar that peeked above my collar. Would you mind showing us some moves? I've never seen a woman flip a man twice her size. A ring of predatory grins widened around me. I sought Adrian's face, hunting for the smallest signal, tilted chin, fractional head shake, that would tell me to stand down. Instead he swirled his whiskey, cubes knocking like distant artillery. Go on, Skylar. Entertain. Entertain. Not protect. Not accompany. Entertain. My pulse throbbed in the cut on my palm from yesterday's knife training. I felt the sting blossom, welcomed it. I moved to the center of the Persian rug, hand-woven, probably cost MO. Wreath in my yearly retainer, knelt, and slammed my fist through the glass coffee table. Sound exploded, shards singing, girls shrieking, someone's cocktail toppling in a slow amber arc. A triangular shard slid across the leather sofa and kissed Vivian's ankle deep enough to leave a ruby kiss. She yelped, diving for Adrian's lap. He didn't flinch, he studied me the way a tactician studies collateral damage. Glass dust hovered like frost in the club's mood lighting. I flexed my fingers, blood threading down the side of my hand, dripping onto cream wool. Consider me your evening's entertainment, I said, meeting his gaze. Will that be all, sir? My voice was a stranger's, hoarse, steady, final. For one heartbeat, the room forgot to breathe. Then chaos, friends scrambling to check Vivian's microscopic cut, curses slamming off the coffered ceiling, phones emerging to film the crazy guard dog. But Adrian simply sat, elbows on knees, tumbler dangling. Something flickered in his eyes, respect, maybe, or just the feral satisfaction of a man who'd trained an attack dog and finally watched it bite. I pivoted toward the door. Each step left a small red crescent on the marble, like ellipsis points that refused to finish his sentence. Skylar. Vivian again, sugar laced with arsenic. About that wedding planning? I'll email you the Pinterest boards. I'm thinking celestial theme, midnight blues, star maps, you know? I didn't answer. I walked, counting footfalls, 16 to the elevator, 23 to the street level, infinity to the night air that still tasted of salt and incoming rain. Outside, Eastbrook glittered, high-rise jewels draped against black velvet. A Bentley idled curbside, hazards blinking like an impatient heartbeat. I paid no attention until a man detached himself from the driver's door, one hand pocketed, the other nursing a paper coffee cup. The street lamp painted his disheveled bronze hair the color of old doubloons. Deep-set eyes, blue as gas flame, met M.I.N.E. with theatrical pity. Well, if it isn't the deadliest Cinderella in the city, Jack's cross drawled, adopting a lazy slouch against the bonnet. Glass slipper shatter back there? I heard the crash from down the block. I kept moving. He stuck out an Italian shoed foot, blocking my path. Want to talk about it, Sky? No. Want to drink about it? I don't drink on the clock. Your shift ended the minute my brother ordered you to dance like a circus monkey. The words stung precisely because they were true. I exhaled, watched steam curl into the humid night. His gaze skimmed my injured knuckles. Who drew first blood? Me. Atta girl. He tossed the coffee into a bin, liquid arching like spent bullet casings. Let me guess, Viv's back. And Adrian's nostalgia hard-on is visible from space. I didn't answer. He nodded as if I had. So instead of letting them stomp on your heart, you stomp on furniture. Effective. Expensive. Still leaves you sleeping alone. I lifted my stare. What do you want, Jax? He grinned, the kind wolves give lost travelers, hungry, promising carnage wrapped in salvation. Same thing I wanted last year when you shoulder threw me into a swimming pool, your attention. Difference is tonight you might actually need me. I tried to sidestep. He matched. Come on, Skylar. Let me spoil the pity party. Hop in. I know a 24-hour ramen joint where the chef lets you break plates on the wall. Less classy than Meridian Crystal, but satisfying. I weighed my options, solitude back in my sterile apartment where every shadow wore Adrian's face, or 10 minutes in the hurricane that was Jack's Cross, equal parts temptation, danger, and reckless laughter. My chest ached. I hated that ache. So I chose the hurricane. We didn't make it to ramen. Halfway through the city, Jax's phone detonated with texts, angry investors, scorned dates, the cross matriarch demanding he attend some emergency board meeting. He silenced it, but the spell broke. I asked to be dropped. At my building, a converted warehouse with more steel than warmth. Jax insisted on walking me up, to be certain you don't bleed out on the stairs out of spite. Inside the loft, I flicked on a single lamp. Low amber revealed exposed bricks, a couch I rarely used, a punching bag that bore the imprint of countless nights. Jax prowled, touching nothing yet consuming everything with those quick predator eyes. He halted in front of the only personal item on display, the bullet pendant necklace Adrian had strung on a chain the morning I was discharged from the field hospital. Cute, he muttered. Romantic if you ignore the fact the thing almost killed you. I moved to the kitchen island, ran my damaged hand under cold water until pink swirled down the drain. Jax followed, snagged the first aid tin from the magnet strip, and nudged me onto a bar stool. He moved with surprising care, antiseptic, gauze, tape, like defusing ordnance. His head was bent, hair falling across his forehead, and I caught a whiff of sandalwood, cigarettes, and something electric that always clung to him. For a dizzy instant I wondered how many bedrooms that scent had seen, then shoved the thought away. You're good at this, I said. I've patched worse. Mostly myself. Occasionally a bartender who asked too many questions. He knotted the gauze, smoothed the edge, and didn't release my wrist. When you're ready, I can make Viv's life complicated. A rumor here, delayed permit there, wedding planners cry over the tiniest hiccups. I almost smiled. I fight my own wars. I noticed. But wars are easier with air support. His thumb grazed my pulse point. Or someone to help you greenback the pain. I blinked. Greenback? Revenge hookup. Color of money, color of envy. Green fits. He let go, raised both hands. Proposition stands. You, me, one night, no promises, no casualties except maybe my headboard. Afterward you can walk away satisfied, and Big Brother can choke on the optics. Heat surged, anger, hurt, an undeniable thrill. I shoved off the stool, putting space between us. I'm not a prop in your sibling chess game. Never said you were. But chemistry's chemistry, Sky. Even you can't fillet that with a combat knife. I crossed arms. If I ever take you to bed it'll be because I choose you, not to spite Adrian. He leaned back against the counter, dimples flashing. Fair. Until then, I accept installment payments, coffee, shooting range, maybe a motorcycle chase across state lines. Your company keeps the boredom at bay. Before I could answer, a fist pounded on my loft door, 3 sharp, official knocks. I straightened, Jax's brow arched. Expecting company? No. I moved, hand instinctively reaching for the sidearm concealed inside a hollow cookbook. Jax stepped behind me, whispering, "Want me to disappear?" I shook my head, nodded toward the balcony. Only if things go south. I cracked the door. On the landing stood a courier in monochrome livery, face blank, envelope pristine. Quinn? I nodded. He passed me a stiff vanilla folder stamped with the cross sigil. Delivery from Adrian. Signature required. I scrawled my name. The courier vanished. Jax watched while I sliced the seal. Inside, a single sheet. Termination contract. Effective immediately. 2-week severance. Disclosure clause binding for eternity. At the bottom, his angular scrawl, "Thank you for your service. A." A paper cut would have hurt less. I set the page on the counter, pressed my bandaged hand atop it as if I could smother the insult. Jax exhaled, something between hiss and growl. That's his play? 5 years, a bullet, and a Dear Jane letter? He shook his head. Allow me one tiny indulgence. Before I could protest, he plucked the folder, withdrew a Sharpie, and across Adrian's signature wrote in bold, "Declined." Then he tucked the sheet back, folded the whole thing into an airplane, and sailed it across the loft where it landed beside the punching bag. I stared at the white wings, throat raw. Declined. If only reality worked like that, if only wishes could be airmailed. Come here, Jax said quietly. And because my knees were liquefying, I did. He didn't try to kiss me, he simply wrapped his arms around my shoulders, rested his chin atop my head. The hug felt borrowed, like a stolen Kevlar vest 2 sizes too big, but it stopped the tremor rocking my ribcage. For 30 seconds I let myself be held. Then I stepped back, wiped my eyes with the heel of my bandaged hand, and met his gaze. I need to disappear for a while, I said. Then let's disappear together. Road trip to nowhere. Separate beds, my virtue is safe with me. His smirk resurfaced, but the offer glittered, sincere. I considered logistics, escape lanes, contingencies. I considered my empty planner, those abandoned cake samples. I considered Adrian and Vivian kissing under camera flashes tomorrow while tabloids screamed #perfectmatch. I lifted my chin. Pick me up at dawn. Bring coffee. And a spare helmet. Jax's grin widened, bright enough to scorch. Deal, Captain Quinn. He moved to the threshold, paused. For what it's worth, the ring he gave you is just a rock. Doesn't deserve the space it's taking in your head. He tapped the bullet pendant hanging by the door. Wear this instead. Reminds you who saved whom. He left, boots echoing down iron stairs. I locked up, leaned back against the cold metal, and finally, let the first tear roll. Outside, thunder cracked open the night, the sky bleeding rain that would wash footprints from streets, champagne from crystal, and maybe, if I was lucky, gunpowder from memory. I pressed my bandaged fist to my heart, felt the ache throb like a second trigger. Tomorrow the city would wake to photographs of Adrian and Vivian, perfect couple, perfect dynasty. And somewhere on a highway heading west, a woman in borrowed leather would ride pillion behind the youngest, wind-stripping tears before they formed, learning what it felt like to save herself. Eastbrook had its SHR beauties, they said. Tonight one of them stopped bleeding for a man who never bled back. Tomorrow she would learn how beautiful a scar could be when you claimed it for yourself. The bathroom light was still on, a single blade of white slicing across my bedroom carpet. Jack stood in the middle of it, water dripping from the tips of his black hair onto the thirsty cotton of the towel knotted low on his hips. One more drop gathered, trembled, and fell. I watched it land on the instep of his bare foot and vanish. Used as used, I said, voice rough from the 3 hours of sleep I hadn't managed. Asking me now is just decorative regret. He didn't answer right away. Instead he lifted one eyebrow, slow, theatrical, the way a card shark fans an ace, and let the silence stretch until the air conditioning clicked on and cooled the bare skin of my arms. Then give it back, he murmured. His fingers, long, violin-string fingers, touched the tuck of the towel. One tug and the fold would surrender. I saw the intention in the lazy flare of his knuckles before my brain could catch up. My pulse detonated. I lurched forward, slamming my palm over his. Don't. I'm not offended. The lie tasted metallic. I was offended, dazzled, and, God help me, curious, all at once. Under my hand, the back of his was warm, waterlogged, tendons shifting like cables under satin. I meant to push him away. Instead my thumb registered the small scar between his metacarpals, old bar fight souvenir, and lingered. His eyes glittered. Such steady trigger fingers, he said, voice pitched low enough to rattle my sternum, and you accidentally groped my towel? Heat stormed my cheeks. I pressed the wrong real estate. Or the right wrong real estate. He leaned in. The smell of my own eucalyptus body wash ghosted off his skin, mocking me with familiarity. Admit it, Quinn. You were mapping the terrain. I tried to retreat. He tightened the orbit, thumb brushing the inside of my wrist where the vein hammered. 4. One dizzy second I pictured the two of us as negative space, white hallway, black doorway, our silhouettes fused by kitchen light. He released me before I need him, chivalry or self-preservation, impossible to tell. Clothes are trashed, he said, nodding toward the heap of bullet-torn Armani on my tile. Got anything a guy can wear without sprouting lace? No men's gear here. You're welcome to my robe. I waved at the hook behind him. Pink. Bunnies. Pre-shrunk dignity removal. He shrugged, spine rippling like a big cat deciding whether to pounce. The terry cloth slid free. I pivoted just fast enough to miss the full postcard, catching only the taper of waist and the abrupt fade out. When I looked again, he'd cinched the robe, too short, too fluffy, yet somehow the ridiculous color only sharpened the razor arrogance in his face. Cute ears, I said, meaning the hood's droopy rabbit stubs. Cute everything, he countered. Open the door, Quinn. My Uber's 2 minutes out and my pride's on life support. I obeyed, hallway air rushing in, carrying the antiseptic smell of condo carpet and the faint chlorine drift from the roof pool. He stepped over the threshold, then paused. The amusement drained from his mouth like water from a cracked vase. I dragged you out of Aurelia, he said, voice suddenly quiet enough to hear the elevator cables humming 3 floors down. Took a round in the door panel so you wouldn't take one in the skull. That buys me, what, 30 seconds of sanctuary? One night? 0? The question lodged under my ribs like shrapnel I'd forgotten to remove. Memory flashed, midnight dockyard, muzzle flashes strobing over rusted cranes, Jax's Bentley fishtailing between me and the shooters. He'd hauled me across the stick shift while glass exploded like ice. You already collected my thank you, I said, though we both knew a textbook thanks had never been issued. His smile turned savage. Yeah. My bad for expecting reciprocity. He flicked an imaginary speck off th. Bunny ear. Your conscience keeps selective office hours, only open for Adrian, Esquire. The name struck like a branding iron. Heat, then numb. He walked. No slammed doors, no echoing footfalls, just the soft, final click of the magnetic latch. Quiet tunneled in, enormous. The apartment felt suddenly high-ceilinged and hollow, as if someone had stolen an entire octave from the soundtrack of my life. I sagged against the jamb, palms pressed to the wood, listening to the elevator ascend, stop, descend, carrying him away. 5 years of birthday gifts occupied 2 cardboard boxes at the foot of my bed, a first edition Fitzgerald, a rose gold Mont Blanc, the enamel hummingbird he'd won at a Monte Carlo auction because I once said I liked birds. Each object carried a microscopic film of hope I'd wiped daily with nostalgia. I sealed the lids, printed Adrian's office address, and scheduled a same-day courier. Then I sat on the floorboards, arms around my knees, until the sun rolled up like a merciless tide and bleached the room gold. Sleep finally took me around dawn. It lasted 23 minutes before the ringtone sliced it open. Since when do you manipulate headlines? Adrian demanded without preamble, voice clipped as broken glass. Push-pull tactics look desperate on you, Skylar. Return the merchandise. It won't rewrite the narrative. I sat up, damp hair sticking to my cheek. I'm not auditioning for a headline. I'm decluttering. Vivian isn't your target, he went on as if I'd recited nothing. She grew up sheltered. You scare her. Aim at me. A laugh clawed my throat. If I'd aimed at her, she'd be on a ventilator. Silence, icy, corporate. Then, finish the wedding logistics. After that, I'll courier the termination contract myself. We're done. The line died. I stared at the dead screen until the reflection of my own face dissolved into greasy pixels. The crossvance ceremony, according to the brief, would be Eastbrook's wedding of the decade. All 800 guests, 3 tons of Ecuadorian pale blue roses flown in on climate-controlled crates, a 20-minute fireworks tableau over Harbor Island. Everything I'd once sketched for Adrian and me, repainted with Vivian's watercolor initials. My job, turn fantasy into fortress, vet vendors, sweep churches, scan gift registry for bombs masquerading as baccarat. The first tasting was held in the Versailles room of the Astor Hotel, a place so aggressively gold it could finance a small war. I arrived early, clipboard braced like a riot shield. They drifted in around noon, airs with cocaine-frosted gums, influencers trailing ring light entourages, trust fund philosophers comparing Rolex tan lines. I felt their gaze land on me the way flies land on fresh fruit, tentative, then ravenous. She's actually here? Psychotic grit, right? Girl's got more stitches in her ego than a Botox party. The remarks were stage whispered, just loud enough to graze. I catalogued them the way I catalogued exits, professionally, without emotion. Then came the photographers, arranging Vivian's bridesmaids beneath a canopy of roses. One of them, Gemma, daughter of a shipping magnate, planted her heel on my foot while pretending to reach for a light meter. Oops. Thought you were part of the backdrop, she cooed. I stepped back. She stepped forward. A dance of territorial piss. The other girls circled, hyena hungry. Word is you were billing yourself as future Cross, Gemma continued, voice syrupy. Cinderella upgrade. Did the clock strike 12 already? Careful, I said mildly. Pumpkin shards fly farther than you think. Her smile curdled. She glanced at her phone, then up, eyes bright with malice. Heard you were passed around by your previous principals like a party favor. Tell us, door-to-door service or bulk discount? The room temperature spiked. My knuckles tingled. I flexed them, reminding myself a broken jaw would cost roughly 9 million in civil damages and 0 in emotional satisfaction. Talk faster, I advised. Your IQ's showing. Someone shoved me, hard, between the shoulder blades. I staggered, caught balance, turned to find Leo Whitman, Vivian's second cousin, wine-breathed and pink with entitlement. Show some respect, bodyguard, he sneered. You're breathing the same oxygen as your betters. I inhaled, exhaled. If I'm only breathing it, you're actively wasting it. He lifted a hand. Instinct read the trajectory, open palm slap, right cheek, coefficient of humiliation 10.0. I measured angles, recoil, potential witnesses. The hand never landed. A blur, tuxedo black, interrupted. There was a sound like a sandbag hitting marble, followed by the collective gasp of 200 socialites discovering oxygen debt. Jack straightened, adjusting diamond cufflinks as if he'd merely swatted a moth. Leo lay crumpled against a dessert cart, raspberry coulis dribbling over his lapel like theatrical blood. Allow me to clarify, Jack said, conversational. She's on cross payroll. That makes her cross jurisdiction. You touch her, you touch me. You touch me, well, let's just say my lawyers moonlight as executioners. The room froze, gold leaf reflecting shock in 24-karat symmetry. Leo groaned, attempting leverage. Jax planted a patent leather shoe on his sternum and leaned, elegant as a panther. Apologize, he ordered, tone soft enough to slice butter. Leo coughed red. Sorry, he rasped. Jax looked at me. Sufficient? I crouched, eye level with Leo. Not even close. Then I drove my fist into the only spot guaranteed to hurt without cracking cartilage, solar plexus, minimum bruise, maximum message. He folded, wheezing. Jax's smile was lightning quick and feral. My kind of diplomacy. He offered his hand. Come on. Venue's contaminated. Let's decontaminate elsewhere. We roared out of the Astor's underground in his matte black McLaren, exhaust echoing off concrete like artillery. He didn't ask where I wanted to go. I didn't offer. Wind sheared through the open window, yanking strands of hair free, whipping them into my mouth. I tasted salt, ocean 6 blocks east, and freedom, metallic and addictive. But freedom, I'd learned, was usually a cul-de-sac. The cul-de-sac this time was my apartment. He killed the engine, silence settling like dust after a demolition. I'm too tall for your couch, he warned, yet folded himself onto it anyway, knees skyscraper high, robe now replaced by a stolen hotel hoodie and gray joggers that clung to hip bone and hazard. I tossed him a blanket. He caught it mid-yawn. You ever sleep, Quinn? When the city allows. I turned toward the kitchen. A warm hand shackled my wrist. Was it fun? He asked, eyes bright despite exhaustion. Knuckle therapy? Therapeutic, I conceded. His grin curved, wicked. Therapy's a gateway drug. Ready for the hard stuff? The air thickened, ozone before lightning. I tugged free, heartbeat syncopating. Beer? I asked, voice artificially steady. Bring the whole 6-pack. Fair warning, I drink faster than you can dodge questions. We killed 4 bottles between us. The 5th I nursed until the label peeled off in my palm like sunburn. My tolerance was kindergarten level, the room tilted, warm and forgiving. Jax watched, lids half-mast, predator drowsy. Tell me something, he murmured. In the factory. Aurelia. When the round started singing, did you think of him? I considered lying. The beer dissolved the impulse. No. I thought of my mother's funeral. How the priest mispronounced her name. Stupid detail to die with. His throat worked. And tonight? Tonight I thought of Leo's face cracking. Improvement. A laugh rumbled out of him, low, surprised. He set his bottle down, fingers drumming a military tattoo against glass. Come here. No. Come. Here. I went. Gravity had rebranded as Jack's Cross. He pulled me onto his lap, legs bracketing mine, heat bleeding through cotton. His heartbeat knocked against my ribs like it wanted union seniority. You feel that? He asked. Me. Neither. Must be broken. Could be arrhythmia, I whispered. He laughed again, softer. Then the laughter ebbed, leaving something elemental. Fingers skated up my spine, mapping vertebrae with forensic patience. Skylar. My name sounded different in his mouth, like it belonged there. You want a chaperone, say now. After this, I'm not promising gentleman. I answered by kissing him. Soft, an experiment. He held still, letting me steer. When I pulled back, his eyes had blackened to midnight ocean. Again, he rasped. My second kiss was not soft. Neither was his answer. Morning arrived the color of a hangover, gray, sour, accusatory. I surfaced to the smell of coffee and the obscene luxury of Jack's cross padding around my kitchen in nothing but drawstring pants, spine flexing as he reached for mugs. Pink bunny robe lay murdered on the floor, ears severed by last night's impatience. I tried sitting. Every muscle filed a formal complaint. My knees felt like they'd been borrowed from a marionette. He appeared bedside, mug steaming. Elevator's out, he said cheerfully. Hope you can still walk stairs. Or crawl. I'm impartial. I groaned. You're crowing. Crowing's for amateurs. He set coffee on the nightstand, crouched, and kissed the inside of my wrist, public, proprietary. I'm drafting policy. Starting with, you're not allowed to regret this. Policy clause, I make my own regrets. Fine. He traced a bruise on my collarbone, eyes darkening. But you'll negotiate them with me, not solo. Something fragile expanded in my chest, dangerous, helium light. I sipped coffee to drown it. Days blurred, lint-tangled mornings, afternoon security sweeps for a wedding I refused to name, nights spent learning the dialect of each other's skin. Jax moved in the way a tide moves, no announcement, just gradual annexation. One toothbrush became two, then a drawer, then half the closet. I told myself it was temporary insanity, like a hostage falling for the negotiator. Then came the fitting. The tailor, a Milanese woman with scissors that doubled as a personality, measured me for the gown I would wear to the Cross Patriarch's 80th. Midnight blue silk, off-shoulder, armor disguised as fashion. Jax leaned against the mirror, watching like he'd invented the concept of cloth. Bring the bullet pendant, he said casually. Grandfather likes conversation pieces. My stomach dipped. It's at Adrian's. Along with the rest of my collateral. He straightened. We'll get it back. Not necessary. Skylar. He waited until I met his gaze. We're not hiding. Not from Adrian, not from anyone. If we start skulking, the story writes us instead of the other way around. I hated how right he was. Adrian found me 2 days later on the yacht club pier, inspecting fireworks barges. Summer rain misted sideways, beating on my jacket. He looked thinner, cheekbones sharpened, eyes sleepless. The tabloids claimed pre-wedding euphoria kept him awake. I knew that lie by smell. You're seeing someone, he said without greeting. Confirming rumors now? New hobby? He studied my face as if searching for cracks to leverage. He fought Leo Whitman. Defending your honor, apparently. Romantic. Stupid. Stupid as marrying a woman you don't love to punish the one you did. His lashes flickered. You think you know what I feel. I know what you showed. The words tasted like rust. Rest is speculation. He stepped closer, rain collecting on his hair. Whatever game you're playing with Jax, end it. He destroys things for sport. Maybe I like demolition. His jaw flexed. You're using him to get back at me. I laughed, short, incredulous. Not everything orbits you, Adrian. Some galaxies spin for themselves. Thunder rumbled, distant. He reached as if to tuck a wet strand behind my ear. I shifted, his hand dropped. You deserve better than being his revenge lay, he said quietly. Funny. That's almost exactly what I used to tell myself about being your secret. A muscle jumped in his cheek. For a moment the rain sounded like applause. Then he turned, coat flaring, and walked back toward the tinted Bentley waiting curbside. I exhaled tremulously. Jax's McLaren purred up seconds later. He rolled the window, expression unreadable. Chat looked cozy. Nothing cozy about exorcism. He leaned across, opened the passenger door. Let's rewrite the atmosphere. Next week bled into the Cross estate, columns, marble, family portraits that frowned in oil. Jax hadn't asked again whether I was serious. I hadn't offered reassurance. We spoke in logistics, arrival time, gift selection, emergency exit routes. The morning of the gala, my phone stayed silent. No good mirror selfie, no string of heart emojis he usually spammed. Just radio silence stretching like tundra. I told myself it was fine, space was healthy. I told myself a lot of things. Then Vivian appeared at my condo, talons lacquered, smile lacquered thicker. Returning these, she sang, swinging a monogram tote. Adrian asked housekeeping to toss them, but I believe in recycling. Especially, she plucked out the bullet pendant necklace, sentimental scrap metal. The slug that had nicked my lung once upon a time now dangled between her manicured fingers, cheapened to trinket. She let it swing like a pendulum. He said carrying it felt, what was the phrase, morally theatrical. Apparently some sacrifices come with too many strings. The word struck harder than Leo's fist ever could. I kept my face neutral by focusing on her left eyelash, one fake spike gluing crooked. Anything else? I asked. Just advice. She stepped close, perfume cloying as funeral lilies. You were a chapter he needed to close before the fairy tale. Accept footnote status. Move on. My tongue felt stapled. She pivoted, Louboutins clicking triumph down the hallway. The door shut. I stared at the necklace coiled in my palm, metal warm from her grip, edges cold from memory. Outside, storm clouds stacked, bruised and electric. Somewhere amid them, thunder counted down to detonation. I fastened the chain around my own throat for the first time in years, bullet snuggled into the hollow where meets decision. If Adrian wanted closed, I'd gift him fireworks. I stood motionless in the middle of my silent apartment, the echo of her last footstep still ringing inside my skull like the fading note of a funeral bell. So, Skylar thought, the truth was never a lightning strike. It was frost, slow, creeping, painless until it cracked bone. 5 years. 1,827 mornings of checking his schedule before mine. 106 separate scars, 4 from bullets, the rest from shattered glass, splintered wood, a ricocheted knife, collected while I kept him breathing. And it had all been arithmetic to him. A balance sheet. A contract. Not a heartbeat. The realization slammed into me so hard my lungs forgot their job. The air felt like cold cement pouring down my throat. I pressed my palm to the center of my chest, half expecting to feel the jagged point of a blade that wasn't there. Never loved. Not even once. The paper bag Skylar had placed on the console table, still warm from her grip, gave off the faint buttery smell of the Portuguese tarts she picked up every Friday because she once overheard me tell a stranger they reminded me of childhood. I stared at the grease blooming through the bottom. Such a small kindness. A goodbye without the word. I hooked 2 fingers beneath the twisted handles, lifted the bag, and dropped it into the stainless steel trash can under the sink. The metal lid clanged shut like a jail door. Next came his gifts, the Mont Blanc pen, its nib still glittering like a miniature scalpel, the limited edition watch that weighed cold and guilty on my wrist, the gray cashmere scarf I once wrapped around my mouth so he wouldn't see me scream after I took the bullet meant for him. I hurled them in, one by one, until the can overflowed with luxury corpses. My phone lay and the counter, screen still showing his last text, formal fitting tomorrow. 9 a.m. Don't be late. A hot pulse throbbed behind my eyes. I thumbed the call button. 1 ring. 2. The sound felt like broken glass in my ear. I hung up before his voicemail could greet me in that calm, imperial baritone that once curled inside my stomach like dark whiskey. A new voice, rough velvet soaked in midnight, spoke from the corridor. Finally decided to let me escort you to the lion's den? Jack's cross. Youngest son, tabloid prince, devil in a Tom Ford suit. He lounged against my doorframe, collarbone gleaming beneath a half-buttoned black shirt, thumb still dancing across the screen of his phone as if the world's axis ran through it. When he lifted his gaze, the hallway's anemic sconce light carved amber into his irises, wolf eyes, daring you to run so he could enjoy the chase. He straightened, closed the distance in 4 unhurried strides, and wound his fingers through mine. Come on, angel. Let's armor you up. The endearment should have sounded cheesy, angels and devils, how cliché, but something in the soft scrape of his voice made it feel like a covenant scribbled on my pulse. Regret seeped in before we even reached the elevator. I haven't decided, I said. Between being my date or making him bleed? Jax's smirk tilted. Either way, wear something sharp. Red looks lethal on you. He saw straight through me, and the intimacy of it terrified me more than any muzzle flash. A gentleman monster. Perfect. We stepped through the brass and glass doors of the Cross's gala ballroom precisely at 8. The chandeliers dripped like frozen waterfalls, each crystal a silent witness to decades of whispered loyalties and open treasons. Jax curved his arm around my waist, knuckles brushing the bare skin where the silk of my gown ended. The fabric was the color of oxygenated blood, impossible to ignore, and he'd insisted on the thigh-high slit so you can kick if necessary. Inside the anteroom. He paused, head cocked. Ready to cause a scandal? Before I could answer, he cupped the nape of my neck, thumb beneath my ear, and kissed me. Not polite. Not exploratory. An open-mouthed kiss meant to brand. His breath tasted of winter mint and savage intention. My knees betrayed me, sagging just enough for him to feel the victory. When he pulled back, lust and mischief glittered in equal measure. Nice, he murmured, voice husky. Then, remembering, he loosened my chignon so a wave of dark hair tumbled over my throat, concealing the telltale bruise blooming there. Can't let Big Brother see my artwork too soon, he whispered. The orchestra struck a Gershwin prelude. I had attended hundreds of these galas, but never as invited prey. Jax was summoned almost immediately. Youngest, a security attendant murmured, your mother requests you. He scanned the crowd, calculating. Want to hide in my suite upstairs? He asked me. I arched a brow. Afraid I'll embarrass you? His laugh was low, dangerous. Darling, I'm afraid they'll eat you alive while I blink. Then leave me a weapon and go play dutiful son. He brushed his lips across my knuckles, formal, mocking, and vanished into the silk and diamond tide. I found a semi-shaded alcove behind a column, the marble cool against my bare shoulders. 2 sips of champagne later, a shadow eclipsed the light. Adrian. Tuxedo impeccable, eyes arctic. Why are you here? He demanded, voice pitched for my ears alone. I'm off duty, I replied, proud of how steady I sounded. His gaze dropped to my throat, the muscle in his jaw leapt like a sniper had fired. What the hell is that? He seized my upper arm, fingers clamping around the exact radius I'd fractured 3 months ago, protecting him. Pain flared, bright white. Answer me, Skylar. Who touched you? Release me. Tell me his name. We're employer and employee, nothing more. My personal life is off limits. He stepped closer, breath hot. You think you can flaunt some random man in my face and I'll, random? I cut in, voice like a scalpel. You forfeited the right to question me the second you announced your engagement. His eyes narrowed, fury crystallizing into contempt. A setup. I should have known. You're trying to punish me. He yanked again. I stumbled into him, champagne splashing across his lapel like a blood spatter. Let go, I hissed. Instead, he murmured, cold certainty, we're leaving. Quietly. The idea of being dragged from the hall like a misbehaving teenager ignited something raw in my chest. I braced, ready to break his wrist. Before I could move, an arm slid around my waist from behind, pulling me flush against a hard torso that smelled of sandalwood and gun oil. Big Brother, Jax drawled, since when do you manhandle women? Adrian's grip slackened but didn't withdraw. Stay out of it, Jax. This is private. Jax's chuckle rumbled into my vertebrae. Can't. She's my private now. Adrian stared at the proprietary hand splayed over the scar that bullet had carved. Recognition darkened his face like an eclipse. You too, he swallowed the rest, unable, unwilling, to voice it. Jax tilted his head, savoring the moment. You refused to thank her for saving your life, so I'm thanking her my way. The orchestra swelled, chandeliers glittered overhead like thousands of frozen accusations. A shrill gasp sliced through the waltz. Vivian stood 10 feet away, knuckles wide around a crystal flute. Before anyone could react, she hurled the contents forward. Red wine arced, a liquid comet. Jack spun me behind him, the wine splattered across his cheek and shirt front, blooming like carnations in snow. Gasps fluttered around us. Phone cameras lifted. Vivian's hand flew to her mouth, too late. My aim wasn't, she stammered, mascara already running. Jax wiped his face with the back of his hand, slow, deliberate. Vance, he said, voice silk over razors, I'm the wrong target. Her gaze flicked to me, fury reigniting. She threw herself at my FIA. NCE. A bodyguard playing whore deserves worse than cheap wine. The words hit like birdshot. Murmurs thickened, privilege, entitlement, disgrace. She thrust her phone toward the nearest matron. A photo filled the screen, Adrian asleep on a private jet, my profile bent over him, blanket in hand. From any angle, it resembled intimacy. From every angle, it screamed betrayal. Whispers curdled into sneers. Gold digger. Climbing so hard she left fingerprints on his skin. My cheeks flamed, my tongue glued to the roof of my mouth. Enough, Adrian snapped. You're drawing a scene. Leave. His voice cracked like a whip, but against me, not Vivian. My heart folded in on itself, paper under a steamroller. The man I had bled for twice over was ordering me to heal so the woman who'd just assaulted his brother could keep her halo polished. Jax's fingers tightened around mine, an anchor in a typhoon of silk and venom. She doesn't owe anyone silence, he said, lazy tone masking steel. He looked down at me. Baby, am I so forgettable you need to window shop my brother? Tears threatened, I caged them. No, I answered, voice clear, surprising even myself. You're the only view I need. A collective ooh rippled, the crowd scented fresh plot. Jax grinned, carnivorous. He snatched a fresh glass from a passing tray, closed my hand around it, then guided our united grip until burgundy reigned over Vivian's white Chanel. She screamed, mascara bleeding into war paint. Adrian wrapped an arm around her, cooing apologies, murder in his glare. Eastbrook, he warned, you've gone too far. Jack shrugged. I hold grudges like family heirlooms. Keep testing me. He squeezed my waist. Oh, my girlfriend's officially off the clock. Need security, big bro? Call me. I'm cheaper, and I don't charge overtime for punching back. Jax ushered me upstairs to a penthouse suite, door thudding shut on the chaos below. He stripped off the ruined shirt, fabric hitting marble with a wet slap, and disappeared into the bathroom. The shower hissed to life. My phone buzzed, Adrian. I declined. Again. And again. Texts flooded in, come down. Explain. You're making a mistake. Apologize to Vivian. I powered the phone off, severing the signal like cutting a wire to a bomb. Exhaustion clubbed me. I curled on the suede chaise, meaning to rest 5 minutes. Sleep ambushed me. When I woke, skyline neon glowed through half-drawn drapes. Jack stood at the window, backlit, towel slung low on sculpted hips, water still purling along the ridges of old scars. Heard me stir, he turned, the predatory edge softened. Hungry? On the coffee table, a silver platter of miniature eclairs, barbecued sliders, and, inexplicably, 2 slices of the cheap strawberry cake I used to devour in Aurelia mess halls. Didn't know what you craved, so I brought options, he said, sheepishness an odd accessory on royalty. I picked up the cake, nostalgic sweetness coated my tongue. Jax, have you always? No, he answered before I finished. I'm not Mother Teresa in Armani. But I noticed you smiled every time that flavor showed up at base. Silence ballooned, thick with almosts and might have beens. I set the fork down, heart hammering. How long? He crossed the room, stopped inches away, heat rolling off him like desert wind. Long enough to hate my brother for having you first. His mouth found mine, tender then ravenous. The towel slipped. Guiding my hand, he pressed it over the flat plane of his stomach, lower, until I felt him shudder. We tumbled onto the bed, sheets cool against my back, his skin fire above. Lights? He rasped. Off, I whispered. A fist pounded the door. Jax cursed into my collarbone. Ignore it. Another barrage, urgent now. Eastbrook. Open, it's Adrian. I shoved at Jax's shoulder. Your family feud. He growled, snatched the robe, stalked to the door. It swung open to reveal Adrian in tux pants and wrinkled shirt, face carved from stone. His gaze hooked on Jax's mouth, lipstick smear. D like battle standard, then flew to me wrapped in duvet. I watched color leach from his knuckles as they clenched. 10 minutes. Downstairs. His voice scraped gravel. I lifted my chin. I've clocked out. Ask HR. Jax barked a laugh. Girlfriend's on unpaid leave, bro direct complaints to me. Adrian's eyes never left mine. Your mother's bracelet, he said softly, too softly. Still in my safe. Come collect it, or consider it forfeit. A dagger between ribs would have hurt less. That thin circle of silver was all I had left of the woman who'd walked out when I was 5, trading toddler and trailer for a Vegas waiter with a Mustang. I swallowed glass shards. Throw it away, I said, amazed my voice didn't crack. Her memory's trash to me anyway. Adrian's mask slipped, underneath, something broken. He stepped forward. Jax blocked, but Adrian shouldered past, stride fueled by desperation. The door, ajar, framed Vivian in a champagne gown, eyes blazing. North, she breathed, please tell me you're not here for her. Jax raised his phone, flash on, clicking photo after photo, smile lethal. Documenting the circus, he said cheerfully. Good lighting in here. Vivian's shriek could have shattered crystal 3 floors down. Adrian froze, caught between fiancé and collateral damage. I pulled the duvet higher, feeling strangely weightless. So this is free fall, I thought. And I haven't even hit the ground yet. The corridor outside the Whitman's glass-walled auditorium smelled of eucalyptus disinfectant and fresh orchids, too clean, too bright, like a hospital pretending to be a palace. My phone had been vibrating against my hip for 3 solid minutes, an angry bee trapped in the pocket of my leather trench. I didn't need to look at the screen, the custom vibration pattern was Adrian's, 3 short, 1 long, the same rhythm he used to tap against the steering wheel when he was impatient. For 5 years I had answered on the first pulse. Tonight I let it buzz. Principal and bodyguard, so. Un's about right, huh? Adrian's voice slid over my shoulder, low and amused, the way it always did when he was cataloging power differences like other people counted cards. I kept walking. 4-inch stilettos, marble floor slick from the rain, people kept dragging in on the hems of their couture. Every step was a test of balance and will. I wanted out of the Whitman 80th birthday gala before the candle lighting ceremony began, before Adrian's mother started her yearly speech about filial duty, before Vivian floated across the room in whatever cloud of silk she'd chosen to play goddess in this season. The phone buzzed again. And again. A fourth time. I surrendered. Yeah? I tucked one side of my blunt bob behind my ear and pressed the cell closer, as if that could muffle the orchestra still sawing away at a waltz behind me. You left already? Jax's voice, Eastbrook, I reminded myself. I had to remember to call him Eastbrook in my head now that the rest of the world had finally learned his real name, curled around my vertebrae like warm bourbon. I can swing the Bentley around. Rain's insane. In the background someone, I think it was his college roommate, Mateo, hooted, "Tell Cross we said hi," followed by a chorus of drunken male laughter. I pinched the bridge of my nose. I'm fine. Just need, Skylar. Adrian again, physically this time. He stepped in front of me, black tie perfectly askew in that manufactured careless way magazine editors loved. The chandeliers caught in his dark hair, painting every strand mahogany. Look at me and say it. Say you don't love me anymore. Say Eastbrook is the only one you want. The hallway narrowed to the size of a gun barrel. Musicians inside the hall hit a cymbal crash. It felt like a warning shot. On the other end of the line, Jax went quiet except for the soft scrape of his thumbnail against stubble, an old tell. When he finally spoke, the warmth had iced over. So that's why you're late. You're with him. It's not. My throat tasted of copper. I imagined the words I would need. I choose you, Jax. I choose the future you keep drawing on napkins and whiteboards, the future where I'm not a shield someone else holds but a woman someone walks beside. The syllables jammed behind my teeth like a misfiring cartridge. Declarations made in front of Adrian always felt cheap, weaponized. I wouldn't turn Jax into another grenade. Jax exhaled, the sound resigned, almost gentle. I told you I didn't mind being used, Skylar. Just don't lie to me. And don't lie to yourself. He hung up before I could fit any apology through the speaker. The dial tone hummed against my eardrum, thin and final. I hit redial. Once. Twice. Straight to voicemail. Panic climbed my ribs. Adrian's fingers shackled my wrist. Stop. You're embarrassing yourself. His thumb traced the sensitive skin over my pulse, an old intimate habit he still thought he owned. Admit it. I'm the one your heart beats for. Walk away from him while you still can. I yanked free, squared my shoulders, forced my breathing into the 4-count rhythm Blackridge instructors drum into every rookie. No. The word cracked like a bullwhip. I'm in love with Jax. Deeply. Ridiculously. The kind of love that makes me forget what fear tastes like. And I'm going to tell him, face to face, without an audience. Adrian's facade slipped. For a heartbeat he looked as hollow as I felt. You'll be back, he murmured. You always come back. I left him standing under the Swarovski chandeliers, raincoat flaring behind me like wings sliced short. Finding Jax took 47 minutes, time I spent replaying every second I'd wasted on Adrian, every second I'd held back from Jax. The city blurred outside the Bentley's tinted windows while the driver carved through puddles deep enough to swallow a lesser car's exhaust pipe. Eastbrook in October, summer's humidity turned vindictive, needles of cold salt water whipping in off the Atlantic. The VIP lounge above the Mobius Nye Club smelled of birthday candles burned too long and top-shelf vodka spilled by overeager heirs. Neon script on the far wall pulsed I choose the pace in icy cerulean, matching the glow stick someone had snapped and tucked behind Jax's ear. He was draped across a leather sectional, black linen shirt unbuttoned to the sternum, a thin silver chain glittering against his collarbones. His eyes, storm gray under normal light, were mercury now, glazed and distant. The music cut the instant I stepped inside. 10 grown men froze mid-chorus, microphones sagging like limp cigars. Sister-in-law. Mateo recovered first, smoothing his rumpled designer hoodie. Respect. The others formed a sloppy receiving line, greeting me with varying degrees of intoxication and genuine reverence. No side eyes, no murmured jokes about the help. Just open welcome, the kind I'd never earned from Adrian's circle. My gaze zeroed in on Jax. He was conscious, barely, long legs stretched out, one arm crooked behind his head like he owned gravity itself. A half-empty bottle of Armand de Brignac dangled from his fingertips. When he caught sight of me, the lazy grin that unfurled could have powered the entire grid south of Market Street. Hi, birthday boy, I said, voice softer than I intended. The couch parted like the Red Sea. Someone killed the neon strobes, swapped them for warm amber spots. Mateo leaned in, breath flavored with mint and contrition. Look, he doesn't usually do this. Well, he does, but not for reasons you're thinking. He's messed up because he thought he lost you. A second friend, Luca, the venture capital wizard, nodded so hard his man bun wobbled. When you were pinned down in Aurelia last year, he chartered a Gulfstream within 30 minutes. Landed at a closed airfield, drove halfway across a combat zone in a borrowed pickup, got T-boned by a cement truck. Still refused morphine until he saw you out of surgery. A third voice piped up, check the scar, left flank, 6 inches. Ask to see it. Actually, maybe don't ask, just kiss it better. He giggled, then hiccuped. Jax rolled his eyes, the motion slow and liquid. Ignore the Greek chorus. His free hand found my waist, thumb hooking through a belt loop as if anchoring himself. I'm functional-ish. Alcohol-ish? I arched a brow. Allergic-ish, he confessed. 1 glass of champagne too many. Worth it. He nuzzled the inside of my wrist, stubble deliciously abrasive. Party's over, gentlemen. Go make poor decisions somewhere else. The room emptied in a chorus of catcalls and half-hearted protest. Mateo paused at the door, miming a phone. Call if you need anything. Ice, Gatorade, a priest. Jax flipped him off affectionately. I crouched, slipped the bottle from his fingers, set it aside. Up you go, cross. He rose, swayed, then steadied, 6'3" of defiant muscle and reckless heart. Take me home, Skylar. The penthouse elevator smelled of cedar and the vanilla candles he lit whenever he couldn't sleep. I keyed in the code, the doors whispered shut. Before they finished closing, his mouth found mine, hungry, apologetic, possessive. We stumbled across the marble foyer, shedding wet coats, shoes, inhibitions. My spine hit the bedroom door, he palmed the panel open, guided me through. Bedspread cool against my shoulder blades, city lights scattering diamonds across the ceiling. Jax loomed over me, pupils blown wide. Tell me again, he rasped. Tell me I'm not the consolation round. I framed his face, thumbs brushing the sharp crests of cheekbones. You're the main event. You're the whole damn fight card. I kissed the corner where jaw met ear, tasted rain and salt and him. I love you, Jax Cross. A shudder ripped through him, the last of his restraint snapped. He kissed me open-mouthed, languid and deep, drugging us both. My pulse thundered in every place our bodies touched. Dress bunched at my hips, silk giving way to skin. I hooked a leg around his waist, felt his groan vibrate through my sternum. The phone rang, Adrian's tone again, the petty ghost of relationships past. Jack snatched it from the nightstand, answered with a snarl. State your business, big brother. Silence, thick and staticky. Then Adrian, voice sandpaper bought her something. Make sure she gets it. Jax's eyes narrowed to silver slits. He lowered his head, grazed his teeth along the tendon in my neck. I whimpered, couldn't help it, heat flooding every extremity. Jack soothed the sting with his tongue, humming approval. We're a little busy, he told the phone. Birthday traditions and all. Adrian inhaled sharply. Skylar, he tried, tell me you're not, tell me this isn't happening. I stared at the chandelier until its crystals blurred into comets. Words felt useless, action felt sacred. I ran a fingertip over Jax's left ribs, tracing the ridgeline of scar tissue. He trembled, pushed into my touch. Jax's smile was pure wicked velvet. What, big bro? Never celebrated after midnight with your fiancé? Oh wait, she's not yours anymore. Adrian's curse cracked like a starter pistol. The line went dead. Jax tossed the phone, cupped my face so gently my heart cramped. Only us now, he whispered. Say it. Only us. I pulled him down, lips against his ear. I'm yours. Completely. His answering kiss held gratitude and lust in equal measure. We lost ourselves in slow friction, no hurry, no end, just the delicious slide toward forever. Much later, when our breathing settled into the same cadence, he tucked me along the furnace of his body. Stay? He asked, half asleep. Always, I promised. The scandal broke exactly 29 days later, the way these things do, mid-morning push alerts and gasping push notifications. Crosshair jilts heiress at altar, stock in free fall. Speculation ran rabid, corporate sabotage, clandestine affair, hidden debts. I watched the chaos from Jax's kitchen island, espresso growing cold while financial pundits screamed over each other on 3 different channels. My termination contract sat and signed in a cross folder, Adrian's handwriting across the tab, Quinn, confidential. Every hour it remained unsigned felt like a tripwire tightening around my ankle. The doorbell chimed. I opened it to Adrian in the flesh, suit the color of regret, arms laden with Ecuadorian roses so pale they looked dipped in moonlight. Behind him, the Bentley idled like a black panther at the curb. Camera phones bloomed among the tourists on the sidewalk. He dropped to one knee on the welcome mat I'd bought with Jax last weekend, a ridiculous buffalo check thing that read "Come as you are. Marry me," Adrian said, voice carrying just enough for the phones to catch. I was lost. Now I'm found. Strangers clapped. Someone started the chant, "Say yes, say yes." I hoisted the paper bag in my hand, groceries, eggs, tomatoes, a single bunch of daylily stems wilting a little in the autumn heat. "I'm good, thanks. I've got dinner waiting." I stepped back. He shot up, blocked the door with a polished Oxford. "I called off the wedding. For you." His famous composure was fracturing, I could see the fault lines. "Laugh if you want. Call me pathetic. But I can't breathe when you're not around." I studied him, really looked. The faint scar I'd given him years ago during a training bout, the stress tick twitching at his temple, the desperation leaking from every pore. None of it moved me. Maybe that made me cruel. Maybe it just made me free. "I don't love you anymore," I said quietly. "And I won't be your emergency exit." He caught my wrist, gentler than I expected, as if handling ancient glass. "You took a bullet for me." The words came out cracked, reverent. "Yes. And you used that bullet to write me out of your story." I tugged free, reached into the grocery bag, pulled out the daylily stems. "Here. Traditional remedy for lingering attachments. Eat them. Get over it." I tucked the bouquet into his arms beside the roses, shut the door, engaged the deadlock. Through the peephole I watched. Had him stand there a full minute, shoulders caving, rain-smearing mascara he didn't know he wore. Then he walked away, a man unraveling into the city's indifferent mist. The next afternoon, his corporate account posted a manifesto. 7 paragraphs, no names, but the internet filled them in within minutes. Hashtags for second chance romance, slow-motion videos of him carrying roses, speculation timelines worthy of homicide investigations. Screenshots pinged my phone until I turned it off. Jax read the post aloud every night in bed, voice honeyed with faux sympathy, each recitation more dramatic than the last. When he reached the line about the woman who taught me the difference between possession and partnership, he tossed the phone onto the carpet, rolled me beneath him, and proceeded to prove, thoroughly, that he was excellent at both possession and partnership when consensual. By the 4th night my ribs hurt from laughing and other, sweeter aches. 5 days later the summons arrived. "Come sign your termination contract, 9 a.m. sharp." HR language, Adrian's watermark pressed into the linen paper like a brand. The cross-executive floor smelled of pine aftershave and money older than God. I wore a slate gray pantsuit, armor cut to my measurements, no jewelry except the bullet pendant necklace Jax had looped around my throat at dawn, lips still warm from his lazy good morning kiss. Adrian waited behind his father's monolithic desk. He looked as if he'd been sleeping in his clothes, sleeves rolled, tie missing, jaw dark with stubble that probably had its own publicist wanting to brand it ruggedly relatable. His eyes tracked me as I approached, pupils a little too wide. I sat, smoothed the crease of my trousers. "Let's keep this quick. I have a flight to Chicago at noon, private equity never sleeps." He slid the folder across mahogany polished to a mirror. "Sign the top page." I flipped it. "Not termination. Equity transfer agreement, 50% of cross VOT. ING shares contingent on my marriage to Adrian within 30 days. My pulse jackhammered. "This is coercion dressed up as a prenup." His mouth twisted. "Call it what you want. Just call me your husband by Christmas." I rose. "If this is your idea of romance, no wonder you're single." I was halfway to the door when the lock snicked shut, magnetic seal, no manual override. My stomach dropped through the floor. Adrian pushed back the chair, gate predatory. 5 years, Skylar. You still underestimate how far I'll go to keep what's mine. I yanked my phone, no signal, Wi-Fi jammed. The building's security tech had been my specialty once upon a time. I recognized the dead zone hum. "You can't hold me hostage. That only works in movies and Senate hearings." He spread his hands, almost apologetic. "In 60 minutes the cross-socials publish our engagement announcement. By noon the stock rebounds. By dinner we toast to synergy." He checked his watch. "Tick-tock. Tick-tock yourself." I hurled the chair aside, vaulted the desk, aiming for the glass wall. Impact would hurt, but fractures might trigger emergency protocols, anything to broadcast distress. I didn't make it halfway. The office doors exploded inward in a hail of crystal shards. Jack stood amid the wreckage, clutching a chrome conference chair like a lion tamer who'd run out of patience. Blood dripped from his knuckles, scarlet on white marble. I ran to him, ripped a strip of silk from my blouse tail, wrapped the worst gash. "You insane, beautiful idiot," I hissed, tears threatening. He brushed glass from my hair. Saw the car downstairs, figured he was playing games. Thought I'd change the rules. His gaze lifted to Adrian, voice dropping to Arctic calm. "We done here, big brother?" Behind us, Vivian erupted through the doorway, hair wild, eyes wilder. She flung a manila envelope that struck Adrian's chest and burst open. Ultrasound photos fluttered like wounded butterflies. "Congratulations, Daddy," she spat. "Media already knows. Oh, does your board? Wedding's back on, unless you want to explain to shareholders why you orphaned your own heir." The color drained from Adrian's face so fast I thought he might faint. For a moment the only sound was the overhead HVAC sighing expensive air across expensive ruins. I slipped my hand into Jax's bloodied fingers. "Let's go," I murmured. "Nothing here worth salvaging." We were almost to the elevator when Jax paused, glanced back. "Hey, Adrian. Just a heads up, save me a front row seat at the ceremony. I hear shotgun weddings are a blast." The next morning, Adrian texted 3 words, "I'm sorry." Jax watched me delete the message, eyes unreadable. Persistent bastard. I straddled his lap in the breakfast nook, morning sunlight turning his tousled hair to copper. "You, Cross, are the only persistent bastard I want." He nipped my bottom lip. "Prove it." I did, twice, before the coffee cooled. Later, while he answered emails bare-chested, thumbs flying over the screen, I studied the city through the penthouse glass. Somewhere down there Adrian was stapling together the tatters of a life he'd shredded. Somewhere Vivian was choosing nursery colors. And somewhere, between headlines and stock tickers, Jax and I were just beginning. I walked up behind him, slid my arms around his waist, pressed my cheek to the warm plane of his back. "You know what I realized?" He kept typing, free hand covering mine. "Love isn't a battlefield. It's a bodyguard who shows up with a chair instead of a gun." He laughed, the sound vibrating through my sternum. "Good thing I'm excellent at improvised weapons." He pivoted, kissed my forehead, my eyelids, the corner of my mouth, soft pledges where words felt too small. "Stay?" he asked again, same question every morning, as if I might vanish with the night mist. And every morning I gave the same answer. "Always."